The Council's verdict. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council echoed with the voices of dozens of alien representatives. Towering figures with shimmering scales, fur-covered diplomats with sharp fangs, and glowing beings with translucent bodies all argued in a chaotic symphony. The air crackled with tension, a reflection of the heavy decision they were about to make. At the center of the chamber, a lone human stood. Ambassador Jacob Reeve, dressed in a simple black suit, remained calm despite the storm around him. His sharp eyes scanned the room, observing the anger and fear on the alien faces. Humanity had been summoned here under accusations of disrupting galactic peace, and Jacob was here to answer for his people. This council cannot ignore the blatant aggression displayed by humanity. Boom Zorathel, a serpentine alien with scales that shimmered in green and gold. His long body coiled as he slammed his tail on the floor for emphasis. Their warship, the Resolute, defies our treaties by entering restricted zones without permission. A chorus of agreement erupted from the other representatives. Humans are too dangerous to be part of the galaxy, one shouted. Their technology threatens our way of life, yelled another. The chamber seemed to tremble with their voices. Jacob remained silent. He knew better than to interrupt. Humans were already seen as brash and impulsive. He wouldn't add fuel to the fire. Instead, he waited, his hands clasped behind his back, his face an unreadable mask. His calm demeanor only seemed to anger the aliens further. Ambassador Reeve, Zorathel hissed, his golden eyes narrowing. Do you have nothing to say in humanity's defense, or do you admit your people's crimes? Jacob finally stepped forward, his boots clicking softly on the polished floor. The room quieted, though the tension was still thick. Honorable council members, he began, his voice steady but firm. Humanity has always sought peace. We joined the galactic community to learn, to grow, and to contribute. But peace cannot exist without fairness. Fairness, interrupted a feline-like representative, her fur bristling. You call deploying the warship fairness? Jacob raised a hand, and to his surprise, the room fell silent again. The Resolute was not sent to provoke. It was sent to protect. Humanity has faced threats from factions within this council who do not honor their own treaties. We will not sit idly by while our people are targeted. The chamber erupted again, voices clashing like a storm. Jacob stood firm, letting their anger wash over him. This wasn't just about the Resolute. It was about humanity's place in the galaxy, a place many didn't want them to have. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared, cutting through the noise like a blade. The chamber fell into stunned silence. A holographic screen appeared above the central podium, displaying a massive ship hovering near the Council's capital planet. The Resolute. Its sleek black hull reflected the light of the nearby star, and its array of weapons glinted menacingly. The Council members froze, their faces pale with shock. This is a violation of our most sacred laws. Zorathel roared, his voice trembling. How dare humanity bring such a vessel here? Before anyone could respond, a voice echoed through the chamber. It wasn't human, but a calm, artificial tone. This is the Resolute, flagship of Earth's defense fleet. We are here to ensure the safety of our ambassador and the integrity of these proceedings. We mean no harm unless harm is brought to us. The room fell into chaos once again. Some representatives shouted for retaliation, while others cowered in fear. Jacob glanced at the hologram, his expression grim. He hadn't been informed the Resolute would come. This was a bold move by Captain Elena Drake, the ship's commander. Too bold, perhaps. Ambassador Reeve. Zorathel turned to him, his eyes blazing with fury. Is this how humanity negotiates? By flaunting their weapons in our faces? Jacob didn't flinch. The Resolute is here to ensure fairness, he said evenly. Humanity will not be bullied into submission. We demand justice, just as any member of this council would. A sudden, chilling silence filled the chamber. The representatives stared at Jacob, their faces a mix of anger and fear. For a moment, it seemed like no one knew what to say. Then, A new voice echoed from the hologram. "This is Captain Elena Drake of the Resolute," the calm, authoritative voice announced. "We are not here to provoke war. But let me be clear. If any harm comes to Earth or its people, we will respond with full force. This is not a threat. It is a promise." The chamber was stunned into silence once more. Even Zorathel seemed at a loss for words. Jacob took a deep breath, knowing the situation was on a knife's edge. Humanity had shown its hand, and now the galaxy had to decide how to respond. As the council members whispered among themselves, Jacob's gaze remained fixed on the hologram of the Resolute. Its presence had changed everything. The council chambers, once a place of calm diplomacy, now felt like a battleground. "Let them decide," Jacob thought, his fists clenching at his sides. "But humanity will not bow." The tension in the room was electric, and Jacob knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for too long, and now they were about to see the truth. The Resolute's warning. The council chambers had fallen into a hushed chaos. Alien representatives whispered frantically among themselves, their fear evident. Above them, the holographic image of the Resolute hung like a silent predator. Its dark hull gleamed with an ominous edge, a testament to humanity's engineering, a mix of sleek beauty and raw power. Ambassador Jacob Reeves stood motionless, his face betraying none of the turmoil within. The sudden arrival of the Resolute had shifted the dynamics entirely. The Council, once an unstoppable force of unity, was now a fractured room of indecision and panic. "Captain Drake," a deep, guttural voice broke through the tension. It belonged to Thrall, a hulking, bear-like alien with silver fur and piercing blue eyes. He was one of the few council members known for his pragmatism. "You claim this is not a threat. Yet your warship enters our airspace, unannounced, armed to the teeth. Explain yourself." On the hologram, Captain Elena Drake appeared for the first time. Her sharp features were framed by dark hair tied back in a no-nonsense style. Her uniform was immaculate, a symbol of Earth's discipline. Her steel-gray eyes scanned the chamber, making even the bravest representatives squirm. "Councillor Thrall," she said, her voice calm but firm, "the Resolute does not come to threaten but to ensure accountability. For too long, humanity has been treated as an outsider, a lesser race. We've endured betrayal, sabotage, and manipulation from factions within this council. No more." Gasps rippled through the chamber. Jacob couldn't help but glance at the councillors Zorathel and Lyrath, two representatives rumored to have dealings with the rival Vix Empire, humanity's most hostile neighbor. Their expressions were guarded, but their twitching tails betrayed unease. "Accountability," Zorathel hissed, his forked tongue flickering. "Human arrogance knows no bounds. You barge into our sovereign space, disrupt the sanctity of this council, and dare to speak of betrayal." Captain Drake's expression didn't waver. "We barge in because polite requests are ignored. We disrupt because peace talks are twisted into ambushes. And we dare to speak because Earth has the strength to stand tall, no matter how many shadows conspire against us." The chamber erupted into shouts. Some representatives rallied behind Zorathel, condemning humanity's audacity, while others began questioning their own alliances. Jacob stood amidst the chaos, feeling the seismic shift. For years, humanity had been pushed to the edges of galactic politics, a fledgling race told to stay in its place. Now, for the first time, they were at the center. The tension in the chamber was interrupted by a low hum. On the hologram, the Resolute began to shift. Panels on its hull slid open, revealing a row of advanced energy weapons that pulsed with a soft, eerie glow. The sight silenced the council instantly. "Let me make this clear," Captain Drake said, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Humanity seeks peace, but we will not tolerate treachery. If any harm comes to Earth, its people, or its allies, the Resolute will respond with force proportional to the threat. This is not a bluff. It is a promise." Thrall leaned forward, his blue eyes narrowing. You speak boldly, Captain, but this council is not easily intimidated. Do not mistake hesitation for weakness. Drake's lips curled into a faint smile. I would never underestimate the council's strength, but perhaps you should stop underestimating ours. In the shadows of the chamber, Councillor Lyrath's clawed fingers tapped nervously against her seat. Her people had always relied on deception and backroom deals to maintain power. The Resolute's arrival was more than a show of force. It was a challenge to their way of control. She exchanged a glance with Zorathel, and he gave the slightest nod. Jacob's sharp eyes caught the exchange. He stepped forward, his voice firm. Enough of this posturing. The Resolute is here because humanity is tired of playing by rules that others break. If this council truly values justice, it will address the betrayals against Earth instead of condemning us for defending ourselves. A murmur spread through the room. Some councillors nodded in agreement, while others avoided meeting Jacob's gaze. The tide was shifting, but not enough. Jacob knew the Resolute's presence alone wouldn't secure Earth's place in the galaxy. Words could only do so much. Ambassador Reeve, Thrall said, his voice a mix of respect and suspicion. What exactly does humanity want from this council? Jacob hesitated, choosing his words carefully. We want acknowledgement that we belong here as equals, not as pawns. We want assurance that Earth's sovereignty will be respected. And we want an end to the covert attacks orchestrated by members of this council. The room tensed at his accusation. Zorathel snarled, his golden eyes burning. You dare accuse us without proof. Jacob held his ground. The proof will come. And when it does, this council will have to decide. Justice or chaos. Before Zorathel could respond, a piercing alarm filled the chamber. The hologram shifted, showing a fleet of ships emerging from hyperspace. They bore the markings of the Vix Empire, their weapons charging as they formed a blockade around the council planet. Captain Drake's face hardened. Well, she said coolly, it seems some members of this council were expecting us. The room fell into stunned silence. Jacob's heart raced as he realized the game had just escalated. The Vix Empire was here, and the Resolute was the only thing standing between Earth's ambassador and a galactic conspiracy. Betrayal in the ranks. The hologram of the Vix Empire's fleet loomed over the council chambers, casting an ominous glow on the stunned faces of the representatives. Their ships, sleek and predatory, bristled with weapons that glowed a menacing red. The blockade was more than a show of strength. It was a declaration of war. Captain Alina Drake's voice cut through the tension. Ambassador Reeve, it appears some in this council have been playing a double game. Would you care to explain, Councillor Zorathel? Zorathel's golden eyes narrowed, his scales rippling in irritation. How dare you insinuate that I— Save it, Jacob interrupted, his tone sharper than before. He pointed at the hologram. The Vix fleet didn't just happen to show up here. Someone gave them our location. Someone who had access to council communications. Gasps rippled through the chamber, and all eyes turned to Zorathel and his ally, Councillor Lyrath. The feline-like Lyrath, usually composed, now looked visibly tense. Her long claws tapped nervously against her seat, her tail twitching in agitation. Baseless accusations. Lyrath hissed, baring her sharp teeth. You humans see betrayal everywhere because you cannot understand diplomacy. Jacob smirked, his confidence growing. Diplomacy doesn't involve ambushes and blockades. If you're innocent, you won't mind a full investigation into your communications. The chamber erupted into murmurs, but before anyone could respond, the Resolute's hologram flickered. A new image appeared, live footage from one of its drones patrolling the area. The feed zoomed in on a smaller Vix scout ship attempting to cloak itself as it approached the council planet. The Resolute's advanced systems detected it, exposing its stealth field. Drake's voice was calm but icy. That ship is carrying an unauthorized signal. Our scans show it originated from this chamber. The room fell silent. Jacob turned his gaze to Zorathel and Lyrath, whose expressions betrayed their panic. They had been caught, and everyone knew it. "You've betrayed the Council," Jacob said, his voice echoing in the stillness. "And worse, you've endangered every representative here by bringing a hostile fleet to our doorstep." Zorethal's tail lashed angrily. "You think one warship can stand against the Vix Empire? Humanity's arrogance will be its downfall." Drake's hologram leaned forward slightly, her expression unflinching. "Perhaps you'd like a demonstration of what one warship can do." Before Zorethal could reply, the Resolute acted. Its drones intercepted the cloaked scout ship, disabling its engines with pinpoint precision. The holographic feed showed the Vix ship spiraling into a controlled crash, its systems rendered useless. Jacob took the moment to seize control of the narrative. This council must decide now. Will it stand for justice, or will it allow corruption to tear it apart? Earth has no desire for war, but we will not sit idle while factions conspire against us. Thrall, the pragmatic bear-like counselor, rose to his feet. "I may not trust humanity's methods," he rumbled, "but I respect their resolve. These accusations must be addressed. I call for an immediate investigation into the actions of Councilors Zorethal and Lyrath." A wave of agreement followed, with representatives nodding and murmuring their approval. Zorethal and Lyrath's protests were drowned out by the overwhelming demand for justice, but the momentary victory was cut short by a sudden shift in the hologram. The Vix flagship, a colossal vessel dwarfing the rest of its fleet, began charging its primary weapon. The glowing energy core pulsed ominously, its power aimed directly at the Resolute. Drake's voice remained calm, though her tone hardened. "Ambassador, it seems diplomacy has failed. The Resolute is engaging." The hologram shifted to show the warship in motion. Panels along its hull opened, revealing its arsenal of cutting-edge weaponry. Plasma cannons swiveled into position, and a swarm of sleek drones deployed in perfect formation. The Resolute was a masterpiece of human ingenuity, designed to outthink and outfight any enemy. Inside the chamber, fear gripped the representatives. Even those who had supported the accusations against Earth were now realizing the true danger of the Vix fleet. The Council's defenses were pitiful compared to the firepower displayed on the screen. Jacob stood firm, his voice steady despite the chaos. "This is what humanity is capable of when pushed to the brink. Let this be a lesson. We may prefer peace, but we are not defenseless." The Resolute opened fire. Its plasma cannons unleashed blinding streams of energy, striking the Vix fleet with pinpoint accuracy. Smaller ships were disabled or destroyed in seconds, while the larger vessels struggled to maintain their formation. The drones weaved through enemy fire, dismantling weapon systems with surgical precision. The flagship's weapon fired, sending a massive energy beam toward the Resolute. But the human warship's shields absorbed the impact, glowing brilliantly before stabilizing. In retaliation, the Resolute launched its own devastating counterattack, a barrage of missiles that struck the flagship's core, forcing it to retreat. The hologram faded, replaced by Captain Drake's image. The Vix Empire has been neutralized for now, but this is only the beginning. The Council must decide where it stands. Jacob turned to the stunned representatives. "The choice is yours. Stand with humanity, or fall to those who would betray us all." The chamber was silent, the weight of his words hanging heavy in the air. The Council was at a crossroads, and humanity had just proven it could tip the balance. The first strike. The Council chamber was deathly silent. Every representative, no matter how powerful or arrogant, sat frozen in their seats. The hologram of the Vix fleet retreating under the Resolute's relentless assault lingered in the air, a chilling reminder of humanity's newfound might. Ambassador Jacob Reeve took a steadying breath, his eyes scanning the room. The faces before him were a mix of fear, awe, and resentment. Humanity had been underestimated for too long, but now, in this moment, they had everyone's attention. Yet Jacob knew this wasn't over. The Vix Empire wouldn't retreat for long, and their betrayal had only scratched the surface of the Council's corruption. As if on cue, the hologram flickered, replaced by an incoming transmission. It was a broadcast from the VIX flagship. The alien commander, a tall, insectoid figure with glistening chitin and multifaceted eyes, appeared on the screen. "This is Commander Catal of the VIX Empire," the alien said, its voice a deep, grating hum. "Humanity has overstepped its bounds for the last time. This is no longer a negotiation. The Resolute will be destroyed, and Earth will answer for its arrogance." Captain Drake's face appeared alongside Catal's, her expression calm and composed. "Commander Catal," she replied, her voice sharp and unwavering. "You've already seen what the Resolute is capable of. Your fleet is outgunned and outmatched. Stand down now, or I will make sure you don't get a second chance." Catal's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Your ship may be impressive, human, but it is alone. You cannot stand against the combined might of the VIX Empire." Drake's expression didn't falter. "Let's test that theory." The hologram shifted to show the VIX fleet regrouping. Reinforcements had arrived, and now dozens of ships swarmed like a dark cloud, forming an impenetrable wall around the Council planet. The chamber erupted in chaos as representatives shouted in fear and anger. "This is an act of war," Thrall roared, his massive fist slamming into the table. "The Council cannot allow this." "Act of war," Zorathil spat, his forked tongue flickering. "This is what happens when you let humans provoke the galaxy. We should surrender before more lives are lost." Jacob stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. "Surrender? Humanity didn't bring the VIX here. They came because they thought the Council was weak and divided. If we don't stand together now, they'll pick us off one by one." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared. The hologram zoomed in on the VIX flagship, which had begun charging its primary weapon again. Unlike before, the energy core now pulsed with an ominous intensity, suggesting it had been modified for maximum devastation. "They're going to target the Council planet itself," Captain Drake warned. "We need to act now." Jacob turned to the Council. "You see what's happening. They don't just want humanity out of the way. They want to control this Council by force. If you don't act, everything you've built will be destroyed." Thrall rose to his feet. "What do you propose, Ambassador?" Jacob straightened. "Authorize the Resolute to engage the VIX fleet fully. Let us protect this Council, not just for humanity, but for everyone." The chamber erupted once again, with representatives shouting over each other. Some supported Jacob's call to action, while others argued that trusting humanity with such power was too dangerous. Zorathil and Lyrath, still fuming from their exposure, tried to sway the room toward inaction, claiming that escalation would doom them all. The debate was interrupted by a sudden, earth-shaking tremor. The chamber lights flickered as the hologram showed the VIX flagship unleashing a massive beam of energy. It struck the planet's outer defenses, shattering them in an instant. Panic gripped the room as everyone realized the next shot would target the Council itself. Captain Drake's voice came through the speakers, steady and resolute. "No more waiting. The Resolute is engaging." The human warship moved with precision, its engines flaring as it charged toward the VIX fleet. The chamber watched in stunned silence as the hologram displayed the battle unfolding in real time. The Resolute's weapons fired in synchronized bursts, cutting through enemy ships like a blade through paper. Its drones swarmed the larger vessels, disabling their engines and weapon systems with surgical accuracy. But the VIX were relentless. Their sheer numbers overwhelmed the Resolute, forcing it into evasive maneuvers. A barrage of plasma fire struck its shields, causing them to flicker dangerously. Inside the Council chamber, Jacob's hands clenched into fists. He could feel the weight of every representative's gaze on him, their doubt and fear palpable. "Come on, Elena," he muttered under his breath. "Show them what we can do." On the hologram, the Resolute executed a daring maneuver. It surged forward, straight into the heart of the VIX fleet, and deployed a new weapon, a sphere of pulsing energy that expanded rapidly, disabling the systems of every nearby enemy ship. The Vix fleet was thrown into chaos as their vessels lost power, leaving them vulnerable. Drake's voice came through the speakers, firm and unyielding. "Commander Catal, your fleet is crippled. Surrender now, or face total destruction." Catal appeared on the hologram once again, his composure shattered. "This isn't over, human," he spat before the transmission cut off. The remaining Vix ships began retreating, vanishing into hyperspace one by one. The chamber erupted into stunned silence as the hologram displayed the battlefield, silent but victorious. The Resolute hovered amidst the wreckage, battered but triumphant. Jacob turned to the council, his voice steady. "Humanity doesn't want war. But if you threaten our survival, we will fight back. Let this be a lesson for anyone who doubts our resolve." The room remained silent, the representatives too shocked to respond. Jacob knew this was far from over, but for now, humanity had proven its place among the stars. The chamber uprising. The victory of the Resolute reverberated throughout the council chamber like a thunderclap. Alien representatives sat in stunned silence, their usual bravado stripped away by the spectacle of humanity's unyielding power. For a moment, the chamber felt like a battlefield itself, silent, heavy, and charged with the tension of what was to come. Ambassador Jacob Reeve scanned the room, his gaze lingering on the most vocal critics of humanity. Zorethel and Lyrath avoided his eyes, their once confident postures now hunched with shame. Even the pragmatic Thrail seemed momentarily lost in thought, his silver-furred face unreadable. But Jacob knew the silence wouldn't last. Humanity's bold actions had forced a reckoning, and the council would soon erupt into chaos. It didn't take long. "This is unacceptable," Lyrath snarled, rising from her seat with claws unsheathed. Her feline eyes gleamed with desperation. "Humanity has turned this council into their playground. Their warship violates our sovereignty, and now they claim victory as if they own the galaxy." Thrail growled low, his massive form towering over the chamber. "Lyrath, sit down. The only sovereignty violated here was by your Vix allies. You've been exposed, and yet you dare speak of betrayal." A murmur spread through the chamber as other representatives nodded in agreement. The tide was turning, but Jacob knew it wouldn't shift fully without one final push. He stepped forward, his voice calm but commanding. "This isn't about sovereignty, and it's not about humanity. This is about trust. The Vix fleet didn't just happen to show up, they were invited. This council was betrayed by those who saw power as more important than unity. If we don't address this corruption now, the galaxy will tear itself apart." The chamber erupted into arguments. Some representatives demanded immediate action against Zorethel and Lyrath, while others still hesitated, wary of giving humanity more influence. Amidst the chaos, Zorethel's golden eyes darted toward the exits, calculating his next move. Jacob noticed and tensed. Something wasn't right. Before he could act, a loud crack echoed through the chamber. The lights flickered, and a section of the room's security field collapsed, replaced by a cascade of sparks. A group of armed figures stormed in, their weapons gleaming under the chamber's dim lights. They weren't Vix. They weren't even recognizable as members of any known species. Their armor was dark, featureless, and unnervingly quiet as they moved with military precision. At their head was a towering figure, clad in an ornate suit of black armor adorned with crimson insignias. "This council has outlived its usefulness," the leader declared, his voice a deep, synthesized growl. "The galaxy needs order, not endless debate. And humanity, you've made yourselves too dangerous to ignore." The chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives scrambled for cover, their once mighty voices reduced to panicked cries. Jacob dove behind a console as plasma bolts rained down, carving glowing lines into the chamber's walls. He tapped his communicator, his voice urgent. "Captain Drake, we've got hostiles in the chamber. We need backup." Drake's response was immediate. "Hold your ground, Ambassador. Drones are en route. Keep them talking if you can." Jacob risked a glance at the attackers. Their weapons were cutting edge, far beyond what most council members had access to. Whoever they were, they had backing from someone powerful. His gaze flicked to Zorethel and Lyrath, who had vanished in the chaos. Figures, Jacob muttered. Cowards to the end. He straightened slightly, raising his voice to address the attackers. You've made a big mistake coming here. The Resolute is still watching, and you've just declared war on every species in this council. The leader turned toward Jacob, his crimson insignias glinting ominously. The council is a relic, he growled, and humanity's arrogance has doomed it. This isn't a war, it's a cleansing. Before Jacob could respond, the chamber's main doors burst open. A squadron of sleek, silver drones poured in, their movements precise and almost organic. The Resolute's reinforcements had arrived. The attackers opened fire, but the drones were too fast. They weaved through the chaos, disabling weapons and subduing hostiles with stunning pulses. The leader growled in frustration, his armor absorbing several direct hits as he fought back with brutal efficiency. Jacob seized the moment. He grabbed a fallen plasma pistol and emerged from cover, firing at the leader. The shot struck true, hitting the figure's shoulder and staggering him. For a moment, the room seemed to hold its breath. But the leader wasn't done. With a roar, he activated a device on his wrist. A brilliant flash filled the chamber, and when it cleared, he and the remaining attackers were gone, vanished into thin air. The drones secured the room, and the chaos began to settle. Representatives cautiously emerged from their hiding places, their faces pale and shaken. The chamber was a wreck, with scorch marks and debris scattered everywhere. Jacob lowered the pistol, his mind racing. Whoever the attackers were, they had come prepared, and their leader's words lingered in his mind. Humanity's arrogance has doomed it. Captain Drake's voice came through the communicator. Jacob, are you all right? For now, he replied, glancing around the ruined chamber. But this wasn't just an attack. This was a message. Someone out there wants this council, and humanity, destroyed. Unleashing full power. The ruins of the council chamber were a stark reminder that the galaxy's balance had been shattered. Smoke lingered in the air, mingling with the hum of the drones securing the area. Representatives huddled together in small groups, their whispers laced with fear and uncertainty. Ambassador Jacob Reeves stood amidst the wreckage, his mind racing to piece together the fragments of what had just happened. This was more than a random attack. Jacob muttered into his communicator, pacing near the center of the chamber. Their weapons, their precision. It felt like a coordinated strike, aimed to destabilize the council. Captain Drake's voice came through, sharp and focused. Agreed. My analysts are reviewing the data from the drones. Whoever they are, they're well-funded and well-equipped. This wasn't their first operation. Jacob clenched his fists. And it won't be their last. The holographic display above the chamber flickered, showing a live feed of the VIX fleet regrouping at the edge of the system. Reinforcements had arrived, larger ships bristling with weapons that glowed with an ominous crimson hue. Their flagship, now repaired, loomed at the center of the formation like a predator ready to strike. They're testing us, Drake said, her tone grim. Trying to see if we'll back down after the chamber attack. If we show weakness now, it's over. Jacob turned to the representatives, raising his voice above the murmurs. This council was attacked because someone fears what we could be if we stood together. But if we don't act now, if we don't meet this threat head-on, we'll give them exactly what they want. Thrall stepped forward, his towering frame a commanding presence. You're right, Ambassador. The VIX Empire must be dealt with. But it's not just about humanity. If we fight together. The chamber erupted into a mix of agreement and hesitation. Some representatives were eager to join the fight, while others balked at the idea of risking their fleets against the VIX. Jacob could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This was a turning point, not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. Suddenly, Drake's voice cut through the noise. Jacob, we've detected something new. The VIX flagship is powering a weapon we haven't seen before. If they fire it, the Council planet won't survive. A chill ran through Jacob's spine. He turned to the representatives, his voice firm. This isn't a choice anymore. If we don't act now, the Council falls, and with it, any hope for peace in the galaxy. Thrall growled in agreement, slamming his fist into the table. The Calorith fleet will stand with humanity. Who else will join? One by one, the representatives nodded, their resolve hardening. For the first time, species that had been enemies for centuries began aligning their forces, forming a coalition under the most unlikely of banners, humanity's. The battle begins. The coalition fleets emerged from hyperspace in a coordinated strike, their ships forming a protective barrier around the Council planet. At the center of their formation was the Resolute, its sleek design and formidable weaponry a symbol of humanity's defiance. On board, Captain Drake stood on the command deck, her expression steely. All systems online. Prepare for engagement. The VIX fleet wasted no time. Their flagship fired first, a massive beam of crimson energy cutting through space. The coalition's smaller ships scattered, but the Resolute held its ground, its shields absorbing the brunt of the attack. Return fire, Drake ordered. The Resolute unleashed a barrage of plasma and missile fire, its advanced targeting systems finding weak points in the VIX formation. Coalition ships followed suit, their combined firepower overwhelming the VIX defenses. But the enemy was relentless, their reinforcements pouring in faster than expected. Inside the Council chamber, the battle unfolded on the holographic display. Representatives watched in tense silence as their fleets clashed in the void. Jacob remained standing, his hands gripping the edge of a console. They're stalling, he realized. The VIX are drawing our forces into a trap. Drake's voice crackled through the chamber speakers. Confirmed. We've detected a hidden fleet on the far side of the planet. They're moving to flank us. Jacob turned to the coalition commanders on the hologram. We need to break their line and disable the flagship. If we don't, that hidden fleet will tear through us, unleashing the Resolute's secret weapon. Drake's voice carried an edge of determination. It's time to show them what humanity can really do. Activating the Helios protocol. The chamber went silent as the hologram shifted to show the Resolute. Panels along its hull slid open, revealing a hidden array of glowing devices. The ship's energy signature spiked, and a brilliant golden light began to pulse from its core. What is that? Thrall asked, his voice a mix of awe and fear. Jacob smiled faintly. The Helios protocol. Experimental tech, powered by a miniature star. It's risky, but if it works. The Resolute surged forward, its golden energy enveloping it like a shield. Enemy fire disintegrated on contact, while the ship's weapons became supercharged, each shot delivering devastating precision strikes. The VIX flagship fired its main weapon again, but the Resolute absorbed the blast and retaliated with a beam of concentrated energy that pierced through the flagship's core. The VIX fleet faltered, their formation breaking apart. Coalition forces seized the opportunity, pressing the advantage and driving the enemy into full retreat. Victory and questions. As the last of the VIX ships vanished into hyperspace, cheers erupted in the Council chamber. Representatives embraced, their differences momentarily forgotten in the face of victory. But Jacob's mind was elsewhere. He turned to the hologram of Captain Drake. This was too coordinated. The VIX couldn't have done this alone. Someone else is pulling the strings. Drake nodded, her expression grim. Agreed. And whoever they are, they won't stop here. The victory was undeniable, but it was only the beginning. The galaxy had united under humanity's leadership for the first time, but the shadow of a greater threat loomed on the horizon. Humanity's warning. The aftermath of the battle left the Council planet and its people in an uneasy silence. The VIX fleet was shattered, their flagship obliterated by the Resolute's overwhelming power. For the first time in its long history, the Galactic Council had stood united, under humanity's leadership. But the cracks beneath the surface couldn't be ignored. Ambassador Jacob Reeves stood at the center of the ruined council chamber, addressing the assembly. The holographic display behind him showed the wreckage of the Vix fleet, a stark reminder of the price of betrayal. Today, we faced annihilation. Jacob began, his voice calm but resolute. Not because humanity sought war, but because others sought to exploit this council's weakness. That ends now. The chamber was silent, the weight of his words pressing down on every representative. Even Zorethel and Lyrath, now under guard, couldn't meet his gaze. The enemy in the shadows. Before Jacob could continue, the hologram flickered, replaced by an encrypted transmission. The room tensed as a new figure appeared, a silhouette shrouded in darkness, their voice heavily distorted. "Impressive, humanity," the figure said, their tone dripping with mockery. "You've proven your strength, but strength without vision is meaningless. You've merely delayed the inevitable." Jacob's jaw tightened. "Who are you?" The figure chuckled. "You think the Vix acted alone. The galaxy is far larger than this council, and its power doesn't rest here. You've made yourselves a target. We'll see how long you can survive." Before anyone could respond, the transmission cut off, leaving only static. The silence in the chamber was deafening. Jacob turned to Captain Drake's hologram, her expression mirroring his own unease. "That wasn't a bluff," Drake said. "Whoever they are, they have resources and reach far beyond the Vix." Rising tensions. The council erupted into chaos. Representatives argued over the identity of the mysterious figure, some accusing their rivals, others demanding immediate action. Pharrell rose from his seat, his booming voice silencing the room. "Enough. We are alive because we stood together. Divided, we will fall to this new enemy." Jacob nodded, stepping forward. Thrall is right. The only way we survive is through unity. But unity requires trust, and trust has been shattered. The corruption within this council allowed the Vix to infiltrate us. That must end. Lyrath hissed, her sharp claws tapping nervously against the table. "You think this council will simply bow to humanity. You may have won the battle, but you've made enemies among us." Jacob's eyes hardened. "Humanity doesn't want control. We want survival, for all of us. But if you threaten our existence, we won't hesitate to defend ourselves." The room fell silent again, the weight of his words sinking in. Zorethel and Lyrath were led away by security, their fates to be decided later. For now, the focus shifted to the mysterious new enemy, a united front. The hologram shifted to show the coalition fleet regrouping in orbit. Ships of every shape and size, representing dozens of species, formed a protective perimeter around the council planet. For the first time, there was a glimmer of hope. Captain Drake addressed the chamber. "This victory isn't just humanity's, it's the galaxy's. But we can't afford to be complacent. We need to rebuild, strengthen our defenses, and uncover the truth behind this attack." Thrall stepped forward. "The Calorith fleet will aid in the investigation. We owe humanity a debt for standing when the rest of us faltered." Other representatives followed suit, pledging their resources to the cause. The chamber, once divided, began to unite under a shared purpose. But Jacob knew unity alone wouldn't be enough. Humanity's final warning. Jacob stepped back to the center of the chamber, his voice carrying the weight of the moment. "This council stands on the edge of a new era. The enemy we face is unlike anything we've encountered before. Patient, powerful, and ruthless. They underestimated humanity, and they underestimated this council. We won't let them make that mistake again." He paused, letting his words sink in before delivering the final message. "To those watching us from the shadows, know this: humanity doesn't seek war, but we will not be hunted. If you come for us again, you'll find a galaxy that fights back, and humanity will lead the charge." The room erupted into applause, the sound echoing through the chamber like a rallying cry. For the first time, humanity had not only proven its strength, but also its place among the stars. The galaxy had underestimated them. And now, the galaxy would never forget them. Epilogue. The shadow unveiled. As the coalition forces began their preparations, a small drone returned to the Resolute, carrying data from the destroyed Vix flagship. Captain Drake stood in her ready room, reviewing the findings with growing concern. "Jacob," she said over a secure channel, her voice low, "you need to see this." The hologram displayed a map of the galaxy, marked with dozens of red zones. Each zone represented a hidden base or stronghold of an unknown faction. At the center of the map was Earth, surrounded by ominous symbols. "This isn't over," Drake said. "It's just beginning." Jacob stared at the map, his resolve hardening. "Then we'd better be ready."